Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew, and I am your host for this evening. I am joined today with two of our panelists, and I'll give a little bit of an introduction to them in a little bit. But I just want to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be looking at tonight. So first, we're going to do a little bit of introductions with our panelists tonight, and then a couple just questions that we've prepared, and then we're going to open up the floor to anyone that might have any questions themselves. So first, like I said, my name is Andrew. I'm the campus director for the Kamloops campus, where we host both the legal administrator, the executive legal administrator, as well as the paralegal program. And join with me today are Sherry Babowski, an instructor out of our Kelowna campus, as well as Augustina Caron, who's a student out of our Chilliwack campus. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of information around Sherry. So Sherry is our instructor out of our Kelowna campus and has been working in her paralegal career since the 1980s and has served as a judicial paralegal with BC's highest court, court clerk with the provincial court, and a court administrator for the victim services branch. She's also assisted several lawyers in the private sector and most recently served on a mission trip with the International Justice Mission in Bolivia. All of the positions she's held in the past 30 years, instructing at Sprott has been the most rewarding. So thank you for joining me today, Sherry.
Welcome, thank you.
Absolutely. Also joining us today is Augustina Caron. So Augustina is a proud member of her community of the Salto First Nation. She strives to motivate and help others however she can. She has a strong passion for Aboriginal family and civil litigation law, with the inspiration of one day becoming a lawyer herself. Augustina is graduated from the legal administration program through Sprott and is now doing her paralegal diploma with Sprott as well. She's begun her journey into the field of law and is excited to get her foot in the door with a law firm. In her spare time, Augustina enjoys being active, creative, and spending time with her dog. So welcome, Augustina.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. So before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that I am currently on the territory of the Tecumseh-Shuswet'en people within the unceded traditional lands of the Shuswet'en Nation. And Sprott across the province shares many lands with the Indigenous people in which we live, work, and learn. Like I said, today we're going to go through just a couple questions around our various legal programs, and then we're going to open up the floor to anybody that might have any questions. All you have to do is type your questions into the chat, and then we'll be able to answer those for you. As we begin, my first question is, Sherry, what message do you give to students before they start?
Well, I let the students know that this career that they have chosen is very rewarding. I've been in this profession for over 30 years, and I can look back and say that it has been fruitful, rewarding, exciting, and a lot of hard work. And on that note, the students need to be expected to put in the effort to study hard, because it will all pay off in the end.
And Augustina, with that message in mind, do you think that that was helpful, or would you add anything to that?
I think Sherry really knocked it out of the park though. She's very supportive, and it's very straightforward.
Awesome. Sherry, can you speak to, obviously you've got 30 years of experience in the field. Can you speak to the qualifications that our legal instructors have?
So obviously, to have an instructor in any field working for Sprott, you would want to make sure that you have a diploma or certification from a recognized post-secondary course. The more the better. So someone who has a vast array of knowledge in every area of law, that would be most beneficial, because the legal administrative program and the paralegal program cover every area of law for the students to get a little bit of a taste, so that they can know where they want to begin their career. So certainly at least 5 years of practical training, coupled with the certification, and also having the expertise to deliver excellent customer service to our students, and always being there to support them. So that, I think, primarily is a must, because to be supportive to the students, to walk hand in hand with them, so that they are understanding the areas of law, it just makes it much more beneficial when they've graduated and starting in the workforce.
Awesome. And Augustina, you've taken the legal administration course and now you're in the paralegal course. What would you say are the big differences between those two?
I honestly can't, I do feel like the paralegal is a lot more hands-on and a lot more in-depth versus the legal administrative assistant. It's overall just being able to do our hands-on work with our instructor and being able to kind of be put in that almost like a day-to-day, as if we were actually in the office, which is why I'm more intrigued about the paralegal portion. So yeah, you get to basically use different softwares where you actually will be using once you get into a legal profession.
Mm-hmm. And Sherry, did you have anything you wanted to add in terms of those differences there from an instructor perspective, maybe?
So that's absolutely correct. What Augustina had noted, in a legal administrative role, there's more support, and you're working together as a team in a particular area of law. Whereas paralegal is more independent. They're taking the lead on the files. They are literally the right hand of their supervising lawyer, always working in advance, getting the documents produced, the correspondence prepared, without having to be told what to do. So they're well apprised of the process and take charge on that. So it's much more independent, although in some areas you work together as a team as well, but more so independently on what it is on the files that you've been assigned.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of also add to that, we also have our executive legal administration, which is kind of an in-between between that paralegal and that legal assistant, that just had a couple extra administrative courses to that as well. So if you're interested in kind of adding that a bit more administrative piece to that, that's also an option for you. The next question that I have here is, what work experience is available to you in these programs?
Oh my goodness. So the sky is the limit. So I started off my career working for private firms, working and assisting lawyers, or one lawyer. And then my goal when I first graduated was to obtain a position with the Court of Appeal. And so that is where I worked towards. So working for the courts, becoming a judicial paralegal, and I achieved that. So I became that judicial paralegal earlier on in my career, and then was there for about 9 years, and then strived for more. So the sky's the limit. You can work for a law firm. You can work for the courts as a court clerk, as a judicial paralegal with the higher court. I worked as a court administrator with the police department, taking the victims of crime through our court process, because it's very intimidating for them, and just to make them well aware of what to expect when they are testifying at trial. So there are many opportunities available, not just working in a law firm, which is very exciting.
And Augustina, in your bio, I kind of talked about how you want to one day become a lawyer. What does the opportunity Sprott is offering you, how does that fit into your goal?
Just overall, basically getting my foot in the door at a law firm, and then hopefully from there branching out in whatever department I feel like I suit best. I have a huge interest in civil litigation and Aboriginal family law, so it might change 5 years down the road, but right now I'm very driven, and I'm like, I want to be like Sherry. I want to be able to excel within the years. So
That's awesome. Sherry, can you tell me a little bit about what is expected of students while they're in the program?
Well, certainly rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work that's necessary. Of course, any program that you're taking in a post-secondary education facility, you need dedication and commitment. And certainly, you know, a lot of our modules are 2 weeks, so it moves very quickly from day to day. So always keeping on top of your work assignments, putting in the effort in reviewing every night, so that you're not losing the knowledge that you have learned, you know, 2 weeks ago, that it sticks with you, so that when graduation occurs and the students are off in their practicum and then eventual work placement, that they have enough tools in their chest so that they will become successful in any area of law that they have chosen to work in.
And Augustina, coming into either your LA program or even your paralegal, what sort of expectations did you have for the course?
I knew I was going to have to buckle down. I was going to have to give 100 and over 100% for sure. And just study overall, just make a list and hold yourself accountable. And, you know, I've been out of school for over 5 years, and this was a huge like stepping stone for me, was to go back to school. And I'm actually doing way better than I did even in my other post-secondary schools programs I've done before.
Awesome. And why did you choose Sprott?
Good question. I get this all the time. So actually, I was super nervous about picking a program that I felt like my high school education, I was able to qualify. When I looked at Sprott, it still hesitated me, but the advisor at my Abbotsford campus, they're super helpful. I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel any anxiety. They gave me a breakdown of what the program, from its the legal admin to the paralegal, what my whole year would look like. And if I needed to take a break, it's very flexible. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to take a break between the courses, but overall Sprott seemed very accommodating. And when I looked at other institutions, I felt kind of scared, anxiety there. But overall, my first week in Sprott, the classes were small. Everything is online due to COVID at the moment, but the classes are small. You're very one-on-one with your instructor. If you have any questions, they go out of your way. Everybody at your campus is there they strive to see you to excel, and I love it.
That's awesome. Sherry, as an instructor, how do you support students?
Well, I find that my role as an instructor with Sprott, I wear many hats. And so I'm there to deliver instruction during our class time together. I structure my class where I we'll deliver the instruction at the beginning of the class. We'll take a little bit of a break, and then we work hands-on with documents for which it is that we've spoken about earlier on in our instruction period. I'm a bit of a, I guess, a glutton for punishment, because I love my students and I love supporting them. So I make myself available to answer questions after class is over. There's been times where I'm responding to emails, assisting the students with assignments that they're struggling on, late into the evenings or early in the mornings to help them. I will stay after class to meet with them. I will have tutorials on the weekends for the harder subjects where people who need that extra support can join in a private WebEx session. So truly, my main goal at the end of the day is to see my students thrive. So whatever it is that I can do to support them, I will. And I understand that life brings us many challenges outside of our school class time. And so accommodating my students, with different stressors that are going on, I am most pleased to do that. So if I could take a brick out of their backpack of stress, then I'm able to do that, because really, at the end, like I said, they excel in their studies. And knowing that we have that that they have that support from Sprott, and that they can, take advantage of the extra resources that are provided. It just makes them ever more successful in the end.
And Augustina, from the kind of the student perspective, you spoke a little bit about class size and how that was one of the draws towards Sprott. Can you give a little bit more about how that has impacted your learning and how that might impact your peer support as well?
Yes, of course. So just having a smaller class size, actually, I used to have such bad anxiety and social anxiety, and now it's like I feel totally comfortable. I was never overwhelmed. I've never been overwhelmed so far my journey with Sprott. I just feel overall that I'm able to be heard if I have a question or a concern, or I need kind of like a step-by-step tutorial from my instructor. She's always there. Like, I don't feel like my comments or my questions are pushed aside. If I have an email that needs to be answered, or questions regarding a test coming up, like, they're always answered right then and there. And it's overall, like, I look forward to coming to class every day. Like, that's what drives me, is knowing that, how your parents motivate you, but it's also your teacher. So I love it.
That's great. That's great.
I think I love being their biggest cheerleader. Like, honestly, I not only while I have them in my class, but after they've graduated, I will consistently encourage them. I will let them know that they have it, in the bag, that it is all going to be working out for them. So yeah, I love supporting my students.
Absolutely. Speaking of after their graduation, can you speak a little bit about how our program supports in terms of that job hunt and the topics that we cover?
Most certainly. We have support within the campus to help arrange practicums for our students, practicum placements. And going forward, when my students are looking for a career in the legal industry, I have on many occasions met with my students on a WebEx session. I have pretended to go in the role of the interviewer, and I have a series of mock questions for my students that I ask, that are traditionally asked during an interview to better prepare them. I will give them tips on preparing cover letters and, of course, their resumes to suit the requirements of the specific job that they're looking for, just so that they get one leg in to be selected for an interview, and then motivate them and encourage them that, to shed all the nervousness, the anxiety of having that interview by going through a mock scenario, and then they are well prepared to attend that real interview and nail it.
And Augustina, how do you feel the program has prepared you for the job hunt?
I definitely feel that I have a lot of support from my instructor. Just if it's an inquiry about a law firm, which area would be best suited for me, she's given me her honest opinion, and I really appreciate that. I do feel that when it comes to my practicum in July here, I will be completely prepared. And if I can't find my own firm to do my practicum, I do believe Sprott will definitely help me find a place where I'm best suited.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherry, what type of qualifications would you say someone needs to be successful in the field of either a paralegal or a legal administrator?
Well, certainly knowledge of the law is most important. Although I tell my students that despite the fact that you could have received A+ throughout the duration of your program, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be top notch at the chosen profession of either a paralegal or legal administrative assistant. The most important qualifications that I try to instill into my students of the importance of having is integrity, professionalism, giving 150% no matter what it is that you're working on, being helpful, accommodating, and yeah, cheerful, just being grateful for every day that you're walking into the office.
Augustina, how has the structure of the program helped you in terms of your success and your studying?
just overall how the course is actually laid out. The modules, again, Sherry did mention some of them are only 2 weeks long, but the curriculum that we're provided with, the materials, they're materials that we're going to bring forward into our career in the future. So overall, I do believe that the curriculum, the program is, you get so excited on one course and then you're scared the next week when it's a new one. It's almost like it moves too fast.
Sherry, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, most certainly the transition between some of the modules are very quick, and the intensity of the structure that we're learning, certainly keeping on top of your studies is well recommended. But in all honesty, I know that transition is a little bit intimidating when we're, moving from, say, Canadian tax law to corporate law, much different in structure. And going through it, I think it does take a couple of days to kind of transition into the next module, because it's a brand new world that we're learning in the legal field. Not only are we learning new documents that we're preparing, but there's a whole bunch of terminology that we're trying to memorize, different structures, to be implementing, to be, consistent with the rules that are set out by the court. So, it is, that's why I go back to that dedication to your studies, having a willingness and a want to learn certainly makes a big difference for a student who is wanting to enroll in this program.
Absolutely, thank you. We have a couple questions within the chat as well, so I'm going to transition over to those for a little bit here. Our first question is specifically for Sherry. I'm wondering, paralegals are often on salary or hourly rate?
They are on salary, right? And with a salary, you're also receiving benefits like extended healthcare. There's pension contribution. You can contribute to RSPs. You have long-term, short-term disability. So the extras that are afforded to salary workers are certainly more. If you do choose, and that's one wonderful thing about the paralegal or legal administrative assistant. So wherever you are in your life, I've had, young mothers who still want to work, but yet still want to be at home with their children. There are many career options available in the paralegal field that would give you the opportunity to work half days or 3 days a week. And then those, of course, would be hourly.
Mm-hmm. And how often are paralegals expected to work overtime?
You know what, it's kind of a catch-22 because mostly you're there just during the regular working hours. But for example, when we're, say, if you're working in the civil litigation department, we're preparing for trial. That's a lot of documentation to complete and by a very short timeline. So typically it's all hands on deck at that time, and there might be some requirements to work through your lunch, maybe come in a bit early or stay a bit late, just to ensure that the documentation is prepared and ready to be filed for preparation for trial. So not all the time, but I think with any type of profession, there are sometimes that you would be required to work overtime, but of course, always being compensated for that.
Kind of continuing on with that pay theme, what does the pay rate growth look like over the course of a paralegal's career?
So it does vary from province to province with the pay scale. You could make anywhere between $65,000 a year to $85,000 a year. Certainly different areas of law pay more. So if you're working, say, in immigration or Canadian corporate securities, that seems to pay a little bit more than other areas. So certainly, the longer that you have worked in this field with your years of experience, the more money that you are able to make. But certainly, we love learning. but we're here to make some money as well. So we want to pick a career where it is going to be beneficial financially for us so that it can support our lifestyle and give us all those things that we've worked so hard to achieve. And certainly this career you'd be able to, you would be financially rewarded. Absolutely.
Our next question here is, what does the transition from paralegal to lawyer look like, and what are the requirements for that?
Well, certainly you would be required to, attend university, and you would need to go through the formal process as required by the Law Society of British Columbia. But having said that, it would be nothing foreign that you are studying. I mean, I've taken the LSAT test several times just as a paralegal, just to see how it is that I would do without any formal training. And I've done very well. I think because really we are that right-hand man or woman for our supervising lawyers. So we are well apprised with, any area of law, the process, the procedures, the documentation, and it just becomes second nature to us. So I believe that transitioning from a paralegal and taking, going on further to your studies to become a lawyer, having that background in law would be extremely beneficial.
And Augustina, since that's kind of your end game, what does your current program, how do you see that helping you in that process?
Well, yeah, once I complete with Sprott, I plan to get into the field, and then I'm actually looking into going to the University of Law. That's actually over in the UK. Oh. We had a guest presenter a couple weeks ago that spoke to us about just able to fast track our career with law in the UK.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So. Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
No, I just was going to say, with Augustina saying that, in England, they, of course, practice English law, and that's what it is that we have here in Canada. So the study of law is certainly the same for transition. And yes, I had a guest speaker come into my paralegal class and spoke to my students about advancing to become a lawyer if that's where they want to reach. And yes, the program certainly supports students who have attended the paralegal program, and we can go on from there. So it is very exciting and very easy to transition over.
I was actually going to ask if you could speak more about different presenters that you've brought into class to present to the students and things like that.
So I try to mix it up a lot because I think they get tired of listening to me all the time. So I have had guest speakers come from the Justice Education Society of British Columbia, come and speak to my students about that. I have in the past had a representative from being a trustee in bankruptcy come and speak to my students when we're in credit and collections. So I am always on the hunt to find individuals to come and speak to my students so that they can see on the other side of the fence how different legal processes are involved. So I like to implement as many visual techniques and guest speakers and, mix it up a bit for the instructions. So they're not constantly having to listen to me all the time.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is some of the most challenging pieces of the paralegal workforce?
Well, I've loved my career, and certainly I can look back in the last 30 years, and I really can honestly say that I've never, ever had a bad day. Certainly, I can say a challenge would be stress. It is very fast paced. Our clients that are coming into the firm are in need of legal assistance. And with that said, they usually have, a cloud hanging over them where they need some type of support from us. And so it's just not one client we're servicing, it's many. So our day, moves very quickly. We have lots of clients that we need to tend to. We're under strict deadlines to adhere with the Limitations Act and making sure that we're not letting any client files slip through the cracks. So it's always being one step ahead of the game. I personally love that exhilaration. I love, being chased by the seat of my pants and just flying, like a crazy woman in my career. So I thrive off of that because at the end of completing any assignment or preparing for trial, or documentation that I'm doing on a tight deadline, it makes me feel really good about having completed it by the timeline. So a con, I don't know if that would be a con. It certainly is a busy environment. You certainly can't take your time and, you're hopping around all the time. You do have rest periods where things kind of are just like flowing, but you're still very busy during the day. But most in general, I get into work in the morning and the next minute I look at the clock, it's like time to go home and I have no idea where my day went. So it's great because you're not at a job where you're watching the clock and, 5 minutes go by, but it feels like 5 hours. It goes very quickly. And, you're constantly learning, constantly servicing our clients, working hard. It just, I loved my job, certainly. I think one con maybe can be is that sometimes, the problems that the clients are coming to our firm looking for assistance. Sometimes I feel so empathetic and wanting to reach out and give them a hug and tell them that it's going to be okay. But certainly you can't do that, with professionalism. But I think that really, at the end, helping our client out in a situation there's more rewards. I'm going to say there's way more rewards out of this career than there are cons.
And Augustina, with those kind of that high pace, that kind of stress that Sherry was talking about, how has the program prepared you for that?
Overall, I do believe every module we kind of, like I mentioned earlier, we do kind of have a hands-on as if we're working in a day-to-day routine in an office. So filling out notice of civil claims, affidavits, doing our time, posting our time, it's like we're actually in the office. So it's kind of getting us ready to transition from not being at our home office, but actually being in the busy at a law firm, or if you choose to go to a courthouse, wherever you choose to work. I do believe we will be fully prepared on just being fast paced, being held accountable for all of our work.
Awesome. Our next question here, we talked a lot about how there are a lot of different opportunities that you could go into, different types of law, different kind of law firms or the courthouse. Are there any areas of law in BC that currently have more or less opportunities for employment?
I can honestly say that graduating from a legal administrative assistant program or the paralegal program, one would never, ever be without a job. There are so many jobs available and not enough people to fill those positions. So, putting in the hard work, rolling up your sleeves, and being dedicated to your job, you will never, ever lack employment.
Awesome. If there are any other questions in the chat, feel free to just type those in. But Augustina, I want to hear a little bit more about kind of your favorite part so far in your paralegal program, and tell me maybe your favorite course that you've taken.
I have a lot. I do love, I have a passion for the Aboriginal side of Aboriginal law, family law, again, civil litigation. It's such a wide open topic, there's everything from notice of civil claims to any dispute one might have. Overall, it's just, I kind of get, when I do a module, I'm like, oh, this is my favorite by far. And then I do the next module 2 weeks after, I'm like, okay, no, I changed my mind. This one's my favorite. And I keep my textbooks on my nightstand. And whenever I'm on a weekend when I don't have a like I've just had a final and I start my new module on Monday, I literally read my old textbooks just because I'm like, oh, like I remember we were talking about this like 3 weeks ago. Like it's, you just become, you get in a habit of just liking, kind of feeling out what your muse is on what field you like.
So what's your current favorite?
I know I still didn't answer that. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go off. A civil litigation.
Yeah. And why?
Just because of the wide variety of areas that I could potentially work. I've looked on Indeed, numerous job posts and sites, and yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to grow in different law firms with any civil litigation job posting.
And Sherry, from an instructor perspective, what's kind of your favorite course to teach?
Oh my goodness, I love them all. Honestly, I do not have a favorite. Although having said that, I mean, I put just as much excitement, or I like to hope I do, in every area of law. But there's some that, like Canadian tax law, which is not so, it's a little bit drier than the others, but it's still very interesting to learn and to understand the concept of working as a paralegal in that area of law. Yeah, I would have to say all of them. I love them all. I become probably way more excited than my students, as I'm, at the end of the day, when I'm forecasting with my students what it is that we are going to be learning the following day, I think I get overly excited and start waving my hands because I just cannot wait until the next day for us to begin our studies in a different area of law or teaching a new subject. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I'm not seeing any other questions. Oh, we have another one. Augustina, how much would you say you study daily?
Ooh, be prepared for maximum 1 to 3 hours a day. I currently work evenings, just outside of school, and I honestly, like, I'm a night owl now, but yeah, I would just say, like, roughly, depending on if you feel like you need that extra bit of help, I would just say 3 hours, max 1 to 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you're also working. Sherry, is that a common thing for our students to be working and going to school at the same time?
I'd say a lot of my students do have part-time jobs so that they are juggling school, work, and family, and taking care of, personal responsibilities. Certainly commitment, time management is very important when becoming a student in the legal field. Like I said, we have an abundance of information to be learning every single day. So, keeping on top of your studies. I have found that the students that I have had no problem doing that. After they have graduated from the legal admin program and carrying on into the paralegal program, I have many students who work part-time in a legal administrative role within a firm, and then attending school, for their learning. So, they seem to be adapting very well to that. It all just comes down to time management. I have to touch on, just, not scare anybody away, that there's always 3 hours of homework every day. Certainly I like to structure my class time with my students so that we're working on these documentation in the latter part of our class. And I am there then to assist them if they have any questions, to help them understand why, not only how to complete the legal documentation, but why it is they are doing it a certain way so that they can understand, and recognize a little better the entire process. There are some days where we do not have any homework, but with every module that we're studying, we always the students are provided with textbook resources. And so I would encourage the students to review their lecture notes, to read their textbook. And I also am constantly flooding their inboxes with extra resource material to supplement what it is that they have received from Sprott, so that there is always something for them to be reviewing and reading to better understand the area of law for which it is that we're studying.
Sherry, can you talk about maybe some of the different areas that your past students are currently working in?
Right now, I'm teaching administrative law to my paralegals, and that is a 2-week module. And my afternoon legal administrative students, we are in the 3rd week of a 4-week module for civil litigation. So both very fascinating areas of law.
I have a question here that I'm actually going to take. Is the legal admin program a prerequisite for the paralegal program? It's not. However, they do share quite a few of the courses between the two of them. So if you do the legal admin program first, like Augustina did, you don't have to retake those courses within the paralegal program, which is kind of a nice way to transition yourself into that program. So, Augustina, did you want to add anything to that?
No, actually, Andrew, you answered it perfect. I do believe though, like with just everybody at your campus, they give you a nice layout of all your modules, your times, and it's super straightforward and overall very accommodating. It's easy flow. It's an easy transition.
And you talked about your advisor, how they had helped you and kind of guided you through that process. How did you feel going through that process and connecting with your advisor?
Oh, it's almost like I've known her for quite a while. She's very polite. Overall, just almost makes it personal. You know, you don't feel like a regular customer, like, oh, hey, how are you? Okay, have a good day. Like, she reaches out through email. Everybody at the campus, from the admin to the director, everybody is so accommodated. They email me once or twice a week just to check in, see how everything's doing. And actually, we had floods down here earlier. Was it last year? With the big rainstorm. And my director actually brought my textbooks for my modules, like hand delivered them to my front door. And like that, it's just they go above and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question we have here. Sherry, thinking of students that have graduated, what are some of the areas that they currently work in now?
So I love connecting with my students and receiving feedback from them once they have entered into the workforce. I have students that are working in the private sector, so for law firms, assisting a supervising lawyer. I have students that work for the courts. I have a student that just graduated that is now working for the Crown Prosecutor's Office. And I've had a couple of students who have received their training in British Columbia and then have since relocated to Alberta and currently working either in the courts in Alberta at the law courts in Edmonton or in the private sector as well. So
like you said, lots of opportunities, different kind of experiences for those students looking for those specific different topics. Kind of like Augustine was saying, there's so much that you can do and you kind of pick your favorites there.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that I have 100% success rate with my students. So every one of my students have received gainful employment and they love what they're doing. So they're very happy that they decided to take the plunge, enter into Sprott, take the legal admin program or the paralegal program, and are thriving.
And I don't think that's an uncommon thing across Sprott. I know at the Kamloops campus, within our paralegal and legal assistant program, we have 100% success rate as well. And so I think that it just speaks to how well we prepare our students and that there is that need for these students out there in the workforce.
Yeah, and I just want to touch and add, and reaffirm what Augustina said. we structure our classes to mirror what they would be doing in a law firm. So we create a fictitious client who, you know, we would run a conflict search. We enter them into our legal database. We record our time. So at every transition of any task that we're doing during our time together in class, the students are recording time as they would be expected to do in a law firm. They're preparing independently correspondence, documentation, going through all the stages that are required in any legal area of law. At the end, we will go through the simulation if we have time for preparing a final reporting letter, you know, rendering our statement of account for services rendered, and then moving on to our next area of law. So when they have graduated, they're not going to be, you know, deer caught in the headlights, not knowing what it is that they're doing. It's just transitioning from school now to a real working law firm, and, you know, working with real clients as opposed to, you know, our made up law firm assisting our made up clients. But, you know, we're going through that process as if the students are working at a law firm. So the transition is very minimal.
And with that transition, Sprott also has all those supports from our employment services specialist to our employer guarantee within your first year of graduation, as well as our lifetime refresher. So that's really great kind of supports that we offer after graduation as well, around if a student wants to come back and just get a refresher on some of those topics, or are going into a new position that they want to get a bit of a refresher on too. They have that opportunity to come back and for free get that refresher on that topic. Not seeing any other questions in the chat here. Is there anything else either of you wanted to add, or anything we didn't talk about?
Well, I can say with all honesty that Sprott is by far, it by far excels in any post-secondary education facility. I am so happy and pleased to be working for Sprott because they take a vested interest in all their students. We, like Augustine had mentioned earlier, we're not just a number, they're just not a number. You know, they take a vested interest in every student in wanting to see them succeed. And not just with the administration, the campus directors, you know, throughout our province, but the instructors as well. We are all there rooting on our students to ensure that they are the best that they can be in any particular field for which they've received training for. And for me, Sprott is the place to receive that education because, you know, there's just so much support for the students. We really do care about them and, you know, always striving to deliver customer service excellence for our students. Makes me proud to work for Sprott.
Absolutely. And Augustine, anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, actually just adding on with Sherry there, like, and also if you feel like you need to take a mental health day, like that's super important. Also just if there's an issue personal with your family, like the staff and your instructor are almost like your best friend. Like they're totally passionate and they understand. I remember being younger and at different institutions and it was almost like I was being shunned because like I had a death in my family, or I woke up and I wasn't feeling my best. Like the support you have with your instructor, just it blows your mind, and it makes Sprott stand out by far throughout my whole experience.
Awesome. We had one more late question come in. How long is the practicum? Yeah, Sherry, if you want to take that one, actually.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You would probably be better to answer that.
So for our legal administrative or executive legal admin, it's a 4-week practicum that Sprott sets up for you. It is optional for those two programs as well. So you don't have to do a practicum. We often will suggest it because it gets you into that workforce. It introduces you to an employer and it gives you kind of that hands-on experience outside of the classroom. And then for our paralegal program, the practicum is required. And I believe that's the 8-week practicum, correct? Yes. So that one is 8-week practicum. that you can either do at 1 or 2 locations. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And so that one is required within the paralegal program. However, we will work with you if there's a particular firm that you'd like to work with or a placement. We want to place you where you want to work after you graduate. So we work really closely with our students on what they're looking for in terms of a practicum and the experiences that they want to have. Right. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank both of you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your insight, Sherry from an instructor perspective and Augustina from that student perspective in both programs, because Sherry, you teach both, and Augustina, you've taken both at this point. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. And thank you everyone who tuned in tonight and submitted their questions. We really appreciate you guys joining us, and the recording for this session will be posted on both our YouTube page as well as on our website. So if you'd like to share this with your community, with your kind of your network, that would be very much appreciated, and it could really contribute to that need that we've identified of people in the legal field. So I just want to double check that I have everything kind of. Yeah, other than that, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.